Cliff Notes. So, okay, sorry. Anyway, we have to actually do an intro. Hello, Yaffa Chaya. Thank you so much for this interview.
Okay, now I'll really throw you for a loop. So it's Yaffa Chaya.
Shit. Okay.
You have to swallow the. I do not expect you to actually be able to pronounce this. I'm just letting you know.
All right. No. But I want to give it a good, like, strong couple tries.
You can give it a go. So it's kind of like okay. So the sound is ch. It happens at the back here. Oh, there you go. You did it.
Chaya. I have some phlegm.
Yeah. I nailed it. A little bit of phlegm goes a long way for pronouncing
Yaffa Chaya. Okay.
Nailed it.
Great. Awesome. So this is Yaffa. Could you like give a little introduction as to like what you kind of do, who you are, things like that?
Yes, definitely. You said I was gonna have to do this and I didn't think about it at all. So hi, I'm Yaffa. I live in Bushwick in Brooklyn, New York City. I have a nice little home studio and I have a day job working for Estee Lauder companies in packaging. And I also work as an artist. I've been doing a lot of freelance work in the last year, which I'm currently taking kind of a hiatus from to focus on personal work.
Okay, cool. So now that that's done, let's oh God, this is going to be so much. I'm so freaking excited, by the way. This is going to be so cool. I love your story so much.
You're so sweet.
Oh, for real. I'm so excited. All these interviews are great. Okay, so the first general question that I always ask people is like, kind of, what was your vision in high school? Like, what did you want to do? How were you kind of working your way there? But I know that there were many hiccups that you were kind of forced to overcome starting already at high school. So if you want to share those stories, please feel free.
Yeah. So I went to a high school in Trumbull, Connecticut, that had a very, very friendly art teacher, but not the most well-funded art program in the universe. And he was very skilled with his specific thing that he did, which was mostly illustrations that he painted. So for wanting to do anything in terms of like going to art school, I had to seek a lot of outside resources. So my parents were not really into the whole art thing, which came from a loving place. It came from a place of wanting me to be able to make a certain amount of money as an adult and not have to struggle or wonder where my food was going to come from. And interestingly, it also came from a place of experience. My mom worked as an artist. She actually replicated designs off a runway for a company called May Company, where they would make 7 changes to a print that would go onto fabric to make it legal, to make the copying legal. And she did that in the city for a number of years. Had a lot of opportunities actually, but once she moved to Connecticut to start a family, it was too hard to do that kind of a commute, and there weren't as many art opportunities in Connecticut, and working virtually wasn't as easy. So she kind of saw, like, after she had majored in art and after she had lived the dream, she saw that fall apart, and I think didn't really want the same thing for me.
I see. Okay. So it was truly from a preventative sort of like, I want to protect you from that struggle.
Yeah. And I used to go like tour art schools and go to portfolio reviews, and my dad would take me and he would ask all these like really probing questions to whoever was giving the tour. Like, so what are you going to do for a living after this? Or like, what did your professors do before they were professors? Or what are the jobs? Or what's, he would raise if we were in the big auditorium with the dean giving the speech at the front, he'd be the one to raise his hand at the end and be like, so what percentage of your graduates get hired?
Oh boy.
And they would squirm and they would say, well,
oh my God.
So my parents just had a very specific impression of the whole art thing. So I would seek out opportunities when I was in high school, but they were not willing to drive me to the opportunities or to pay for them. So it was either I found things that were free or I didn't do them.
I see.
Yeah. So I had like a lot of kind of fortunate opportunities. I went to Silvermine, which is it's like an art center that does classes and stuff like that, but it's not like an accredited college or anything in Connecticut. I had a friend who was taking oil classes there, and I came with her one time and like audited the class. And the teacher was so nice and like so excited that I was into it. And he gave me oils and he said, keep coming to class. And I said, I can't pay. And he was like, just keep coming anyway. And I couldn't get a ride, so I couldn't go. It was like 45 minutes away and no public transportation or anything. So
right, because Connecticut.
because Connecticut. And then there was also a summer that I went to Cooper Union, which was like best summer of my life. I was like 16 or 17, I think 16. Maybe that was the summer that I turned 17. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how old I was. But anyway, it was an opportunity that was only available for New York residents, which I wasn't. But I went to the portfolio review anyway. I don't know what made me do that. But I went anyway, and I thought, okay, I can just pretend that I live with my grandmother. And then I thought, like, okay, I could actually live with my grandmother if I get into this. So this would work. So I did the portfolio review. I remember it being extremely scary. And the guy that was looking at my portfolio, he was like really dismissive of my work. And he was like, what is this illustration? And he was like trying to tell me to do like a different kind of work. And I got kind of like a little bit defensive with him. Just like overall, not a very good portfolio review. And when I left, I apologized to my dad, who had I was just this like kid from the suburbs. So my dad brought me to this thing.
I'm sorry, Dad. It's a long drive.
And then I got in, that was cool. And my parents couldn't really say no to it because I was insistent. I was like, this is the best art program in the world. You have to let me go, and it's free, and I can live with my grandmother, and you have to let me. So I did it. It was so incredible. I mean, it was such a great mix of classes, and they made you do like some interdisciplinary things. I don't know. It was so different from like the illustration I had been exposed to, although it didn't really change me out of being an illustrator at heart. And at the end of the program, I said to one of the teachers that I really wanted to attend Cooper Union for college. And I said, am I close? Is there anything I can do? Do you think that Cooper Union would take me? And he said, no. He said, no. He said, but if you do the winter program with us, yes, probably.
Okay.
It was a Saturday program, so just Saturdays. And my parents said no. They said, we're Jewish, and Saturday is Shabbat, and you can't spend money to get on a train on Saturdays, and you can't live with your grandmother during the school year, and this is going to distract from your academics, and your grades are going to drop, and you can't
the whole world's going to end. Yes.
The whole world's going to end. So I didn't do it.
Oh. God damn it. If I were you, I would be like, just like so many levels of pissed, because it's like, I'm trying so hard. It just kind of felt like
I was upset. I was very upset. And my parents had always kind of said that they would pay for myself and my siblings to go to college, but they made it clear that what they meant was a professional degree, and that art school was out of the question. So if I was going to go to art school, it was going to be for free. I didn't have a lot of resources or like understanding of how to go to school for free at that age, because I was a high school student.
Because who would?
Because who would? Neither did I have a lot of guidance with making my portfolio. So we're not talking like the world's most stellar portfolio here. We're talking like a really slapped together, confusing mix of school assignments. And so I thought, okay, well, that's it then. It's Cooper Union or bust. Cooper Union was the only program I knew about that was free. So I applied just to Cooper Union and to UConn. I actually only applied to UConn because my parents forced me to. They practically did the application for me.
Oh my God.
I did not hit submit on that application. They did.
Wow.
Thank God, as it turned out, because I did not get into Cooper Union.
Oh my God. Okay. Can I just say, you're the second person I've interviewed who only applied to 2 schools. So I'm just over here like, these are some ballsy people.
I was living life on the edge. My parents were like, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do because I got a pretty good SAT score the first time that I took the SAT, but my parents were so disappointed by it. They started to say things like, we're going to have to take you on a tour of the community college because that's all you're good for.
Oh,
like, first of all,
God.
going to community college is totally legitimate. So I don't even know why that was a threat. but second of all, my SAT score was quite good. I took it again and got a better score. But like once they had established that they looked down on other schools, I just couldn't
Yeah.
bring myself to apply to any of them.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. That leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. And then also it's kind of like, F you parents, if I can't go to art school, I'm going nowhere. Now what?
Well, I ran through so many different things in my head. I was like, maybe I could get emancipated because then I would qualify for student loans.
Oh my God.
Because I was going to do student loans, but they said they wouldn't sign off on them, and they would have had to because I was
Uh-huh.
a dependent. So all these things ran through my head. Ultimately, hate to say this, my parents were kind of right about everything.
Damn it.
Damn it, right?
No, I 100% understand. Oh my God. Okay, so you went to UConn.
Wait, I take it back. They weren't right about everything. They're not right about community colleges. It's completely legitimate to go to a lower cost school,
Of
especially
course.
considering if I had done it that way, I could have saved thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. But other than that, they were right about everything.
Oh well. Okay, so you go to UConn, and just as a little fun fact, we met each other through UConn. You were a senior when I was
Mm-hmm.
a freshman, and I was essentially like your biggest fangirl ever, and was kind of like a little barnacle watching you and your work. That's
We
how
would
you
have
make
been friends
friends.
had I been more sociable. We would have been friends because I wanted to be friends and I just couldn't just couldn't do it. I didn't
Well,
know the next step.
well, also like I didn't, because like you and all the other cool kids like Fei and Ezra
Oh,
and all these
so
people.
cool.
So no, you don't understand. To me, I was like, you guys are the elite. You guys are like everything to me. So I was
Ay,
also
ay,
very,
ay.
very intimidated, and like I didn't know what to do besides just like constantly be around. But anyway, um this point is just to say, if you want to be friends with someone, you can force it to happen if you just try hard enough. Oh my God.
Oh,
Oh, so UConn.
it's true. UConn. So UConn, I went in as a psych major.
Oh, okay.
That lasted about a year and a half.
Mhm.
Uh, but in my first semester, I decided that I really wanted to take art classes, and
Of
so I tried
course.
to sign up for them. It was like at orientation or whatever, and my advisor was like, "Well, you can't sign up for those. Those are just for the art students." And I was like, "Yes, I can." And I like went to add it to my course list, and it was like, "No, you can't. You
Yeah.
can't do that. You have to be an art student." And there
Yeah.
was not a minor at the time
Right.
that I was a freshman that would have let me in, so that was kind of that. Um, but you could look up the classes and see who taught them and see when they were and what room they were in. Um,
That doesn't sound sketchy at
so,
all.
so I looked up a bunch of the professors on Rate My Professor,
Mm,
and I did some research as to what the requirements would be if I were an art major. What classes would I have to take?
mhm.
Um, and then I just showed up to a couple classes. And like I don't remember if they took attendance or like I don't remember if I had some excuse or something. I don't know what it was, but I just attended the classes and I did the work and I did the homework. And if the teacher was assigning one drawing, I did at least 10. And if the drawing was supposed to be this big, then I did it this big. And I did that for a month. And then I went up to it was Ray DeCapua, it was Professor Ray DeCapua at UPenn.
Mhm.
I went up to him at the end of that first month and I said, "Hi, I'm not actually registered for this class, but I'd like to be." And he was like, "Oh, that's weird."
Oh my
um,
God.
and he signed the paperwork that I needed. Because what was he going to say at that point? Like, "Oh no, now you have to stop." He doesn't care because he's not the administration. He's just a teacher working with students.
And also, this is Ray DiCapua. Like, he really does
Yes.
not give a flying fuck.
But
So,
to be fair, I then repeated this with all of the professors. This was the
yes.
process of getting into each of the, like, anytime I didn't know a professor and I needed to get into an art class, I would just show up, and I didn't wait a month. The other times I would just talk to them after the first class and say, "Hey, I
Mm,
want to be in this class. We need to sign something." And not a single professor was going to be like, "No, the class is too full." Because it
no,
was just not, there was no
no,
resource issue.
that's insane. You literally were like I'm going to show up and they're not going to say no to me.
No.
Like, I don't need this stupid admission. Like, no, I'm going to make this happen regardless. You stealthed your way. Oh my God. That is so ballsy. Like, I love it so much. It's like, wow.
And nobody really like it kind of word got around, but nobody really treated it like an issue in that first year or two, because I think everyone was assuming that I would eventually switch over to the art school. So even not the dean, but like whoever it was that was in charge of like the art program, whatever that role was.
Mm-hmm. Damn, I
It
can't
was like
remember her name.
Andeleva for a while, but I just don't remember what the role title was. But whatever it was, like there was always someone who was kind of like side eyeing me, like, "Are you gonna pay for that?" But it wasn't as big of an issue in the first year.
Mm-hmm. But you're implying that by the second year there were issues.
At some point, like professors and the administration started applying a little bit more pressure, like, hey, like, what do you want to do? Are you planning on becoming an art major? Do you want to do a dual degree?
Mm-hmm.
All of these things, but I didn't really have time.
You didn't have time, and yet you were still doing all these classes.
Yeah, so in order to make it all work, right, I wanted to graduate on time.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do art classes. I didn't want to skimp on the art classes either.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted several art classes per semester. So I was getting waivers to take about 21 classes per semester.
You mean 21
but even
credits?
Credits, sorry. Yes, not classes. Credits.
Okay.
But even like at that pace, there was no way that I was going to fill all the requirements to get a dual degree without staying an extra year, and I didn't want to pay for an extra year, and I didn't want to stay an extra year. I don't know where I was rushing to. In retrospect, I probably could have stayed that extra year, but
right. But everyone kind of thinks that way, especially when you're in college.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Here's where my parents were kind of right, because I was at a big research university, and it turns out that those have a lot of funding, and a lot of interdisciplinary work. So I was finding that I was able to study a lot of things that were really interesting to me besides art, that were then in turn influencing my art. At some point, I went from being a psych major to being an international relations major. I was very, very heavy on the anthropology classes, on creative writing classes, a lot of things like that, and very interested in it. I mean, the international relations teachers did not know that I spent my nights at the art studio. And the art professors did not know that I was not an art major. Like, this was like kind of a double life.
This is your situation. Hannah Montana moment.
This was my Hannah Montana moment. And I realized that there were grants that art students weren't applying for some reason. They just didn't know about them, or didn't think that what they were doing was research, like weren't opting into them. And this was just like free money on the table. And if you're the only art person applying, then you stand out.
Oh yeah, big time.
I started getting all these art grants to just make whatever I wanted to make. So every semester I'd have a different project and a different grant. And like slowly the art students all started applying too, but it was like this fun thing that we all did together. And really cool. It was really fun. It was super, super fun. And I felt like I was always learning something new, and working with so many people. Like going to a big university, I think was really good for me. Sorry if you could hear my cats wailing in the background.
There's like the tiniest little noise, but I'm never going to complain about cat noises. So
they have nothing to wail about, I promise.
No, they never do. No, I totally hear you on the UConn aspect, because in a similar, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent about myself, but I also wanted to go to art school, and then I ended up going to UConn. And I thought I was not going to like all the stuff that isn't art, because art was my world. But then as it happened, I had such a good time because of all the different like studies and the different kinds of people. So I actually ended up having a much, much better time there than I ever would have given it credit for like a few years prior. So it's kind of interesting how that shakes out. Okay, so you are getting a ton of grants, which, by the way, I just want to point out again, you are so goddamn tenacious and like stubborn and incredible, because I feel like a lot of people in your situation would have given up like several years prior, not have even looked
I
into.
think it really helped that I had very specific mentors along the way. Like
Mm,
I always had people telling me, "Oh, well, you can do this, so you should,"
I see.
which I think makes a huge difference. Like Ray DeCapo, who I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
uh, once he saw what my interest was, he was handing me opportunities almost. He was saying, like, well, skip to this level class, do this, do that, like telling me which way to go and what I should be expecting. And then with the grants, I have Jill Deans to thank for that. She's the person who was working with like grants and research opportunities at the time at UConn. And
Hmm.
she was the reason that I got the first grant. She took a really, really special interest. And the way that that grant was set up, it was almost like a grant on training wheels
Mm,
rather than an actual grant where we would take like classes throughout it on how to apply for grants, on how to make a timeline, how to make a budget,
hmm.
and all of those things. So like once you have that skill set, all of a sudden it becomes something that's natural that you could pursue in lots
Right.
of other avenues.
It doesn't feel like this big scary thing that you have no idea how you're going to possibly accomplish it. It feels a lot more tangible and like literally have the skills to do it.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. And I think you probably made such a good impression on the professors because you literally were like, yeah, I may not be getting like specific credit for this, but I still want to show up, you know. I'm sure they took a lot of interest in you just on that prospect alone. And the fact that you're an amazing artist also. I want to point that out too.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think sometimes it definitely helps to just give teachers what they want to be seeing. And like a lot of people will go to art school and then maybe like not show up to class or not do the work. And
Right.
it's not because of a lack of interest. I don't think anyone ends up at art school by accident. It's not actually that easy to get in or to pay for it.
Mhm.
But definitely like professors respond in a certain way towards a special effort.
Sure. And one of the things that you wrote in your email that I want you to kind of touch upon is you briefly mentioned studio space and very large projects. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so I kind of had to bully my way into a lot of things. And I'll say that again, resources at UConn were not scarce, so I don't feel bad about this. Maybe I'd feel different if I was in a city where like space was scarce, but this
Mhm.
was a sprawling university, so I don't think I was really taking away from art students necessarily. But um, I really wanted a studio space. I was like, that's the cool next thing to do. But you couldn't get a studio space at UConn, I believe, unless you had like a special class or unless you were doing the advanced level painting classes. Like there were certain
Mhm.
classes that came with studios that I
Mhm.
was not going to reach until I was a senior.
Mhm.
Um, so myself and Ezra, who you might know as Antonio, decided that we really wanted studio space. And so we built a 7 by 14 foot canvas in the hallway.
Oh my
And
God.
we spent a few weeks painting that in the hallway.
The hallway. Oh my
And then when
God.
we had the critique for our painting class, that also had to be in the hallway because that's where the painting was. And we specifically put it near like an exit entrance kind of deal. So like you couldn't walk in without seeing it and without being a little bit annoyed, like having to walk around it.
This is inconvenient. We need space.
And I had asked for space and was told no in no uncertain terms. But then
Mhm.
after doing that, Ray DeCapo was like, okay, let me give you guys, I'll stash you guys in the back of the wood shop. And he like
Mhm.
carved out a little corner for us and we each had like a spot where we were able to work. And he ended up doing that for some other students as well, like just anyone who needed space to work on their projects. He made it happen.
Incredible. Oh my God. You guys so freaking incredible. Okay. So you were taking all of these classes, but you were not technically a double major. You were not minoring anything. You were just kind of under the radar, accumulating credits and doing a whole bunch of work. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
And then did your parents know about this happening or not?
They knew about it. They were like very confused about what I was doing. But I was maintaining a pretty good GPA, so they didn't care.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Okay. So, before we talk about like graduation and what happened after that, is there anything else in the UConn timeline that you want to talk
Yeah,
about?
so this pertains to after graduation, which is the Mitchell Scholarship, but that process started while I was still in school. That
Okay.
process starts halfway through your junior year. So if anyone's watching this who's in college, and you want to go to graduate school and you want to do it for free, I would highly recommend looking into Fulbrights. There's a few different kinds of Fulbrights too, as well as the Marshall Scholarship, the Mitchell Scholarship, the Rhodes, and the Luce. Luce is only for some select universities, but the other ones are for anyone from any university. You just have to have a high enough GPA and your university has to nominate you. But universities don't know people. So you apply to get nominated at your university, and that's the process that starts halfway through your junior year. I
see.
cannot recommend this enough for art students because these scholarships see so few art applicants that you just stand out automatically. Boris, come here. I'm sorry, he's really crying. I'm just gonna grab him. I don't know what's wrong.
Get the cat. Get the cat.
Bubbins, come here. I know. I know. Ugh, it's because Ezra went to do laundry without you. That's so sad.
That's so cruel of him.
He's not used to people leaving.
Oh my God.
He's a
cat
big
is
boy.
so big. I mean, I see like photos and videos of him all the time on your Insta stories, but like, oh my God, look at the size.
He's a sizable cat. Oh man. Anyway, so yes, that process of applying starts halfway through the junior year by applying. You need to go. Okay, bye. Not a normal exit route.
Oh my God, I was like seeing a slinky like slowly.
That's my cat. He's a real cat.
Oh my God. Okay, scholarships. So it
I have
started
nothing to
junior
hide.
year.
That's a real cat. So yeah. I'm so sorry. So you apply to be nominated. Most schools have somebody who's in charge of national merit scholarships and grants and things like that. I don't know if art specific schools have someone, but they probably do. They probably have someone whose job is partly that. So yeah, you apply and they make it really scary, and you have to interview in front of a panel of professors who are experts in their field, and you have to kind of prove your case. So like you can't apply for all of those different scholarships realistically, because you need to be staying, like for the Mitchell, which is one that I did, that's a scholarship to Ireland. And it is for a year of grad school, which works because grad school in Ireland is 1 year.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect. So you have to kind of make your case for why Ireland? Why does your project need to happen in Ireland? What is your project? What do you do? What makes you better than the other students in your field who are applying? Which again, for our students, you probably will be the only one.
Yeah.
So
lack of competition. So you did actually go to grad school then. Did you do that like immediately after graduating, or was there like a gap?
Yeah. So the Mitchell application process was like, first you get nominated, and then you apply with like a million essays, and that gets reviewed by a lot of people with everybody else's, and then you do kind of this like online interview, kind of with like an AI system that gives you prompts. And then if you pass that round, then you do an online interview with a couple of people. And then if you pass that round, you go to Washington and you do the big scary interview in front of a panel of not professors this time, but working professionals in their fields. Well, sometimes also professors, depending on the field. And so that took me through that entire year and a half, because that's the length of that cycle. And then I went to grad school immediately following graduating UConn.
Oh, okay, cool. So you were in Ireland and you were living your best life with your grad money. That's incredible. Good for you.
Yeah, I still had that same attitude of not really wanting to do art related things unless they were free. At that point, it wasn't really because of my parents anymore. I was an
Right.
adult.
Hmm.
Um, but just because at that point I had met so many illustrators and people working as artists who did not have a degree in art, as well as plenty who did have a degree. But the thing is, there are so few jobs that aren't freelance when it
Hmm.
comes to making art, and nobody checks your degree when you're working freelance.
No, not really a
Um,
thing.
nor do you really need a master's degree unless you're planning to teach, with some very few exceptions. There are some art fields that are probably exceptions, but
Hmm.
not ones that I was looking into. So to me, like the grad school experience was a way to push off adult life for a little bit longer, to
Hmm.
do something fun and engaging with intelligent people, and to grow myself a little bit more in what my art was going to look like. And in this case, um, I actually couldn't do the Mitchell for an art school. I couldn't do an MFA
Ah,
because that was the one program that was 2 years instead of one, but the scholarship was only for 1 year. So what I did is creative writing, which is something I've also always had an interest in.
hmm.
Actually, an MA in writing, so not an MFA at all. And I went in saying that I wanted to do like a graphic novel and that I was going to draw on my own, but that I was going to learn how to write from the school.
Hmm.
Um, Not what I ended up doing. I think I ended up writing poetry and doing drawings alongside the poetry. And so I did these like illustrated chapbooks,
Cool.
basically.
That sounds so beautiful though. Um,
It's very fun.
okay. So you had your year in Ireland. You pushed off adulthood for another year. And then what happened after that once you were like home in the States?
Then I had to be an adult and I was like, oh my God. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had had a bunch of missteps along the way. Like I thought I wanted to go to law school for some reason. I don't know why I thought that.
At
And
what
I
point did you want like did that
for most of UConn and also for all of grad school, I thought that I wanted to go to law school. So I applied while I was in grad school to law school, and got rejected. I only applied to two programs because that's who I am as a person. Um, they were both art law programs. It was, things like
Oh, okay.
intellectual property and copyright and things like that. Interestingly, not jobs that would have been likely to earn me very much money.
Oh my
um,
God.
but they were at that intersection that I thought I was looking for at the time. I applied
Hmm.
just to two art law programs, I think at NYU and Columbia, and did not get in. And then I was like, what am I supposed to do now? And I started applying for jobs in New York City, but it was rough.
Hmm.
Nowhere wanted to consider me. I was applying to mostly arts tangential jobs, like at ad agencies,
Hmm.
where I would be like a copywriter and managing artist, but not doing the art.
Hmm.
I applied to nonprofits that were associated with the arts.
Hmm.
I was applying to I must have applied to like 100 jobs. Nobody wanted me. And I was like living at home and I had a really bad breakup and I was like
Hmm.
losing weight and like I was in such a rut. And my parents, like, weirdly were just so nice about it. Like they just let me
Oh.
stay at home. They never pressured me. They were never like, why don't you have a job yet? They just kind of like let it roll out the way that it was rolling out, which was nice. And near the end of that year of being home, at which point everyone else who had done my scholarship program was at Yale, at Harvard,
Oh.
at Stanford. They were
Oh.
working like hedge fund jobs, like and
Oh my God.
I was just like, was I supposed to do something next? I didn't know what to do. And my dad asked, when was the last time you were really happy? And I was feeling pretty dramatic. And I was like, oh, when I was in Israel, which was like a place that I went in like my freshman year of college. I had like really specific good memories of Israel. I was like, that was the place where I need to live, and that's the only place where I can be happy. And he was like, then go to Israel. And
Oh my God.
so I did. um, that same week, I applied to teach English at a
Hmm.
program that would pay for my housing and my food. And they were like, hell yeah. And so then I went to Israel and taught English there for a year. And it was awful. It was so bad.
Oh
So bad.
no! I was hoping this would be like a good. Oh
It was so bad. I'm not even gonna go into it because it's so unrelated to art stuff, but it was so bad. And near the end of this awful year, where there were good parts too. I mean, I met my husband there. I met some of my closest friends
no! It was the
there.
worst year of my life, but I did find my husband.
But the program was really bad, and I thought I was going to stay in Israel forever. But by the end of that year, I was like, I'm never going to go to Israel again. I think I was living in Jerusalem, and I went to Tel Aviv and ate a cheeseburger, and it was my first cheeseburger that I had had all year because everyone in Jerusalem is kosher. Like there's no non-kosher food there. You can't eat a cheeseburger. I was just like eating this cheeseburger, and I was like near tears. Like that cheeseburger changed my life. It's like I have to go home. So I started applying for jobs before the program was even over, thinking like, not this again. Like it's gonna be just as bad as before. I'm gonna apply to 100 jobs and not get anything. I ended up getting the second job that I applied for, which story of my life.
Everything in twos.
Everything in twos. And it was working for a jewelry company on the Upper East Side. And I was like, okay, cool. My program will be done in a few months and I'll come start working for you. And she goes, I need you this week.
Oh God.
So I moved.
Oh my God. In a week. Jesus.
Yeah. And it was a crazy job. It was like an all-encompassing job. I'm like actually scared to say anything too negative about this job because if this ever got back, like this woman is mega rich, fucking sue me. But just think Devil Wears Prada.
Okay.
And
Picture
it's
has been
exactly
painted.
that. It is exactly that. I did get to do some design while I was there. I got to draw like preliminary sketches for CADs to make jewelry. So that was cool. That was art related. And I was living in New York City, which I'd always wanted to do my entire life, like going way back to Cooper Union. I'd always wanted to be in the city. Like to me, that was like part of being an artist was being in the city, or it just wasn't worth it to me. Not that I think that's actually true, but for me, it was true.
I got you. I got you.
True. And I started doing a bunch of art kind of on the side and on my own. And I left that job as soon as I could because I had to. And so that's how I ended up working for Estee Lauder. But then I also started really branching out with my own work. So that was when I made an LLC because I was reading about it and it seemed to make sense for tax purposes. If I had an LLC, I could write off anything that I purchased, any art supplies or anything like that. And it also gave companies like, I don't know, it just made sense. I'm not a good business person, but it made sense. Plus, I had a friend who was working as a fashion photographer and she got sued. And it was her that got sued because she's just a person. And I was like, oh shit. And she got sued for something that was so out of her control. I thought to myself, like, okay, I need something to kind of hide behind here.
Right.
So if things ever went wrong, if anything went wrong, it would be the LLC that went down, not me as a person.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Someone shouldn't be able to sue me over a job and then get like my house someday or something,
Yeah.
So separating that out was really important. And I started working as a live events illustrator. First for a company called Chic Sketch, which did mostly fashion events. So we would go to like launch parties and things like that. And we would draw the people who were there as fashion illustrations, like on the spot really fast. It would be like 4-minute sketches, which was super fun. We would print them out on the spot and people could post them on social media or whatever. And then I moved from that company to working for Drawing Booth, which is like a similar thing, but more for tech events. Again, super fun. I did a lot of events with them. They pay really well. I highly recommend them if there are any artists in the New York area who like drawing people on the spot. They're great. They're really great to work with. But then COVID happened.
Yeah, that's the part in everyone's story where it's like,
yeah, I had so much momentum. Like I was doing all these events. I was earning money as an artist. I had just been accepted to Artists and Fleas Williamsburg, which to me was a really big deal. like a
Mhm.
really big deal. I was making silk scarves and I was printing my art and I was selling commissions, and it's the most money I had ever made like as an artist before. And
Mhm.
I was starting to think like, well, this could be real. Like I could work towards doing this full time someday.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And then COVID happened and like all of the things that I had planned were just poof.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh no, I'm so sorry. That's awful.
It was awful when it happened, but it was also really exciting to see the way that everyone pivoted to kind of work with that and to be the ones who were, I don't know, I guess successful in that situation. Like drawing booth did a super good job at that. They just instantly
Yes.
pivoted to virtual events, and landed some pretty big jobs that really carried me through the year.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it was a crazy time. And so in this past year and now, what are you doing creatively?
Well, I mean, I'm vaccinated now.
You
And
go, girl. I got my first shot
couple big
yesterday.
changes. Yes, it's so exciting. It's so exciting to be vaccinated. Pfizer, which is the best one, obviously.
Oh, oh, you're gonna tell that to my Moderna ass?
Oof. Sorry to hear.
I know. I have to wait 4 weeks before the next one. Anyway.
But okay, so right before the pandemic started, I was doing and that was like a year ago, right? So yeah, I started deciding like, okay, I'm getting serious. I'm going to make so many paintings, people's heads are going to explode. And I decided that I was going to paint every single day
Mhm.
for 30 days. And then I hit 30 days and I was like, okay, 100 days, let's do it. And I like kept going and going, and like COVID hit and I was like very rudely interrupted. I moved home for like 3 months or something like that,
Mhm.
because city was pretty scary.
Yes, yes.
Scary to like grocery shop and lots of fun anti-Semitism and all that. And I was like, I'm just gonna go. Um, and then eventually I came back because I don't want to live somewhere other than New York City,
Mhm.
pandemic or no. And I started back up painting again, except this time with oil paints, which I hadn't used since like my freshman year of college or something like that.
Oh my
And
God.
and I was taking classes and teaching myself, and it was super fun. And I was in the middle of like this whole bunch of paintings, like a whole series, and I was in a group show and an exhibition, and I was like, okay, I'm like hitting my stride again, even during COVID. Like this is great. Um, and then I found out I was pregnant and realized I couldn't use oils anymore
Ah,
because they are toxic. So I
right.
stopped using them. But I was also in the middle of several paintings and in the middle of a series, which was like kind of heartbreaking. Like I didn't know what to do with myself. Um, and I kept like trying to use other mediums and just like hating it. Like
Mhm.
nothing felt the same after using oils. It was, I don't know. I don't know if it was actually that special or if it was just that I was partway through so many paintings. I don't know what it was.
Maybe a
Um,
combination.
yeah. So like I found out like mid-November or something like that. And then
Mm.
a week or 2 weeks ago, I was like, okay, enough is enough. Like I have to do something. I'm gonna switch mediums so hard that there'll be no going back. Um, I'm gonna spend so much money in one go. um, and so I bought an embroidery machine.
Mm.
Um, and I bought embroidery software
And
and
all
a
the thread.
tablet and and all the thread and clothes to embroider on, and so I'm in real deep now. But it worked.
Thank God. No, your
It
embroidered
worked.
stuff is really, really nice. And you've like barely
It's really
started, and I'm
fun.
just like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm like teaching myself as fast as I can, and it does feel like it's going really well. And now it's like COVID is ending, and I'm making art again, and thinking about markets, and I
Mhm.
really want to get that going again.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people, like when COVID hit, it kind of allowed them to like pivot or like focus a little bit more on their art or like kind of do something a little different. And
Yeah,
I,
I mean, working from home was a game changer. I lost a whole commute from my day, and I gained a lunch break.
that's amazing. Good for you.
It's a lot of art time.
Yes, it is. Yeah, me personally, I like completely changed my portfolio in that year. So you
Oh,
win
that's
some, you
awesome.
lose some. Okay, cool. So I think that pretty much brings us to today. Is there anything in the journey that we didn't touch on that you want to kind of speak on a little bit, or do you think we covered pretty much everything?
I think that was every. I think that was my whole life. I can share my social security number, but
Oh my
probably people
God.
can guess it by now.
Okay, okay, cool, cool. So then I guess so there's like two questions. The first one is to the high schoolers or college students or to anyone watching this video who's kind of nervous about like starting their career and like ending art school and everything. What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh, I would say like get a day job. Like I had a professor in college say to me, and I bought into this so hard at the time. He
Mhm.
said that if you want to be a real artist, then you should move to New York and don't get a job, and either you make it or you starve. And I was like, oh, he's so cool. But like, no, if you talk to almost any artist, especially our age in New York, or almost anywhere, but definitely in New York. I could say from experience, definitely in New York. Any artists, performing artists, drag queens, musicians, it doesn't matter. They all have jobs. Like
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to feed yourself without a job. And so it leaves you a choice, right? You can go get a professional industry job as an artist. And that works for a lot of people. That works really well if you love graphic design. It works really well for a lot of illustrators. Like that is a great path, a competitive one, but a great path for sure. But if what you're doing is making art kind of just for yourself, or you're a fine artist, or what you're doing is very niche and not doesn't really fit into an industry role,
Mhm.
um, you have to get a day job. Everyone has a day job, and for most people, that means that they're going to be a waiter or a waitress, or that they're going to work retail, and that's great. I think that works really well for a lot of people, and I think it has the advantage of sometimes flexible hours,
Mm.
and of not being a creative job, so you still have that creative energy at the end of the day. But what it doesn't have are benefits, and they don't really tell you that
Yes,
in high school or
yes.
college. They don't talk about benefits.
No. That's something that I really wish that colleges across the board, not even just for art, not even just for art schools versus universities, just everyone needs to talk more about like taxes and employee benefits
Yeah.
and pensions, like all these big scary like money terms need to be discussed a lot
Right.
more.
I mean, the best advice that I could give to someone coming out of college is that you should be putting money into your 401k or whatever the equivalent is,
Mhm,
the Roth IRA, whatever you have going on,
mhm.
um, as early as you can, like immediately if you can, because compound interest, look it up. I'm not going to get into it, but look it up. Um, and you want a job that has health insurance. I've had
Yeah.
friends get sick, and they can't do anything about it.
Mhm.
Um, that's terrible, but that's the country that we live in.
I know, I know. I know.
And I've had friends who were not eligible for unemployment um, when COVID happened,
Really?
because
Why
they
weren't
weren't
they?
people who were not technically employed before, people who were like solely doing freelance.
Oh, God. Yeah, unemployment was very, very annoying for me as well. Unemployment in general, they really do not make easy. Uh,
No,
but
no, they don't make that easy.
okay.
So I would say like, and I'm not just doing my day job for the benefits. I genuinely enjoy my job and I
Mhm,
get a lot of value out of it. It's a
mhm.
great job because it's not creative work, so I have creative energy at the end of the day. It's a great job because I am not standing during it, so I have physical energy at the end of the day. And it pays for my lifestyle, and I can still be an artist. Like you can make time for the things that are important to you. That's for me, that part of it has never really been a struggle,
Mhm.
making time.
That's good. No, this is all really, really good to hear because I think uh there's this weird idea that like if you do not leave school and immediately become a crazy successful artist, like solo artist, then you have failed utterly. And I'll
Man.
never forget. I'll never forget being like, I think it was in high school. I watched this video. It was an interview of this artist who I don't remember his name or anything, but he was like a very successful artist. And he was talking about like, how he got so successful. And there were a few things that he said that were really great, but I'll never forget this one. And he was like, the first year after you graduate is by far the most important one. And essentially, if you do not become an artist in that time, like that's it practically. And that really stuck in my head. So That meant that like after I graduated, I was very like even more pressure on myself because I was like, this
Yeah.
major person on YouTube said that I'm not gonna live.
I see kind of where that reasoning comes from, because I've watched a lot of my friends graduate from art school. They don't figure out how to make it work in that first year.
Mhm.
Um, and then life kind of still moves on, right? Like they
Yeah.
go do other things. And they never come back to the art thing. And I think that's where those ideas might come from, of like you have to make it work immediately or it's never going to work. But what I think is more important is having that kind of like resilience and focus, where it is actually okay to fuck up for a whole year.
Yes.
And you can still come back from that, and I've done it multiple times. You just have to remember what it is that you want to be doing. Like, what is your long-term plan? What is your goal? And if your
Mhm.
goal is to be an artist and you're always working towards that, it's okay if you're just working in tiny increments for part of that time.
Because yeah, any step forward is a step forward,
Yeah.
Um, no, that's really, really good to hear. So then I guess final question is, how can other people find you?
Oh, you can find me mostly on Instagram, because I never update my website properly. So my Instagram is at Yaffa Chaya. That's YAFFACHAYA. You're welcome.
I promise I will put text on the screen, but I am still quietly humiliated by my very confident Shaya.
No, everyone pronounces it that way. It's Hebrew. It means beautiful life.
And that
Yaffa
makes
Chaya.
sense. Like I figured there was probably a fancy pronunciation thing that I didn't know, but did I look it up? Nay. Oh well.
It's
Well,
okay. Don't worry.
well, thank you so much for your time and your whole story. Like yours is incredibly unique. I mean, I'm trying to find people who have very unique perspectives and putting it all together, but yours in particular is quite inspiring. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.